Hi everyone. So someone in my previous video asked how do you rotate a piece of text around the sphere? So in Blender, every object rotates around its origin point, right? So if you try to grab this cube over here, and you can see the orange dot, actually let's move it up. When you try to rotate the sphere, it's gonna rotate around that orange dot. In the same way, if you try to move this orange dot all the way over here, for example, try to rotate the cube, as you can see, it's still going to rotate around that orange dot, which is your cube's origin point. With that logic, going back to the text, what we're going to have to do is basically move this origin point to the center of the sphere. And so we can do that through a couple of ways. We can set the cursor to the center of the sphere and then move the text origin point to the cursor which is in the center of the sphere. Now, before we do that, when we click the sphere, you can see that the origin point is all the way over here. So to fix that and move this back to the center of the sphere, what we're going to have to do is go to Object, Set Origin, Origin to Center of Mass, Volume. And so what's that going to do is move the origin point back to the center of the volume, i.e. the center of the sphere. Now we have to move the cursor, which is all the way over here, and move that cursor all the way to the center of the sphere. So again, with the same logic, we click the sphere, go to Object, but this time we're going to go to Snap. And then we're going to go to Cursor to select it. And what's that going to do is snap the cursor to the selected object's origin point, which we set to the center of the sphere. Now, we've done all of these steps and we've arrived at the final step, which is to move this origin point, i.e. the text origin point, back to the center of the sphere. So we're going to click the text, Object, Set Origin, and then set origin to 3D cursor. And what's that going to do? Because we have set the cursor to the center of the sphere, what's that going to do is move this text origin point to the 3D cursor, which is on the origin point of the sphere, which is again in the center of that sphere. So now when we try to rotate the text, I'm going to click R and then Z to rotate it on the Z axis. You can see that the text rotates around the sphere. However, what if you want the text to rotate around the sphere, but with some distance between the sphere and the text, right? So you want the text, let's say, over here, and the sphere over here, and then you want the text to rotate around the sphere like this, right? And so we can do that by applying the shrinkwrap modifier. Because what's happening here is if we try to move the text, you can see that the shrinkwrap is being actively applied to the text. And we don't want that. We want to apply the shrinkwrap once, the shrinkwrap modifier once, and then move the text however we want. So we're going to have to apply the shrinkwrap modifier. Once we did that, if we move the text, you can see that the origin point moves along with it, right? The origin point doesn't fall behind. It moves along with the text. Unless you're in edit mode, and in this case, you're not really moving the object itself, you're moving the mesh, right? Or you're moving parts of the mesh per se, and in this case, you're moving the whole mesh. So the origin point doesn't move with it. But if you're in object mode, and you try to move the text, the origin point is going to move along with it. The origin point doesn't move behind, doesn't stay behind. So we're going to have to do the same thing again. Go to Object, set origin to the 3D cursor, which is in the center of the sphere. And now if we rotate the text, I'm going to click R and then Z to rotate it around the Z axis. You can see that the text rotates beautifully around the sphere. And just for fun, why don't we add a bit of animation? So I'm gonna go to frame 1. And then I'm going to keyframe. I'm going to click I, keyframe the rotation. And let's say I'm going to go to 60 frames forward and then click R, Z, 360. I'm going to click 360 on my numpad to rotate the text 360 degrees on the z-axis around the sphere. Then I'm going to keyframe the rotation again. So you can see created 2 keyframes. Now this is not part of the tutorial, this is just something for fun, right? And so if you go back, and let's make the animation only 60 frames long, you can see that the text rotates nicely around the sphere. And that's the tutorial. Thank you, and have fun.